Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matthew, and I'm here as always with Venushan, and we're here with our second to last position top 10 rankings. We're on shooting guards, a much deeper position than I anticipated. I think our lists are going to be totally different, like you just said, because of one name that we're going to probably have some contention over, but we're going to get to that. I don't think he's going to show up in the bottom three of either of our lists. So let's start 10, 9, 8. You go first, like usual.
Yeah, so I got Terry Rozier at 10,
Hmm.
CJ McCollum at 9, and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander at 8.
Interesting. So Terry Rozier just missed the cut for me. So I wonder who you have, who I don't. So I have CJ McCollum at 10, Shea at 9, and Jalen Brown at 8. So
That's very weird.
Okay. Well, let's talk Terry
Yeah, let's
Rozier
just
first, I
go.
guess.
Let's talk Terry Rozier.
Terry
He's
Rozier
a
was awesome
bucket.
this year.
He
20
can
points a
score a
game
lot of
this year.
points.
Yeah.
Yeah, he scores a lot. He basically carried that Hornets team to contention for that play-in. I know LaMelo got a lot of the credit, but Terry Rozier essentially had an MIP year, and a lot of people forget that, and he got paid for it though. So obviously the owners didn't forget it. Another person I was contemplating with him was Fred VanVleet, because Fred VanVleet is technically a shooting guard this year, even though we know next year he's going to be the primary point guard. But for me, both of those guys both scored 20. Terry Rozier got the edge because his team won more, which is surprising to see with the Raptors. But yeah, those guys are similar in essence that they're both scoring, they both led their team, they're both the leaders on their team. And by that I mean like the emotional leader, the guy that fourth quarter who's instructing people is like, all right, we're running this play, like the coach on the court kind of thing. Even though like they're both not the greatest, like they're not like CP3 level playmakers, but they're those leaders, right? So good on the court guy, good off the room, locker room guy, just a good person to have around. And MIP level last year, hopefully he can duplicate it, just have the same success this year.
Yeah, like it was crazy when he started off super hot, and the whole year I was like, okay, when is this gonna cool down? When is he gonna, go back to who he usually is? And it just never happened. He averaged 20 the whole year. He had games where he scored like, did he score 50? He scored like a crazy number one game. It was up around 50. And he was one of the if you took him in fantasy late, he was like you probably won your league because he was crazy this year.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to CJ McCollum because I really want to see who I have and who you have. I want to
Didn't
see
make
who's
the
different
list.
on our list. But okay, so CJ
Yeah.
McCollum is always a bucket, 20 to 23 points a game, shooting 40% from three. Injuries were a problem this year for him. Otherwise, I think he definitely would have made his first All-Star appearance. It's kind of crazy that he's never been an All-Star this steady, this much of a bucket. You can just pencil him in for 20 a game every year.
Yeah, CJ McCollum was my number 9. He's a solid second option. And I think all the guys above him on my list are just first option guys. Simple as that. So
Yeah.
Second option gets you as far as this. He was having an crazy year before the
Yeah.
injury. Like he was almost averaging 25. I don't know if he could keep that up. I think that was just a hot streak. But if he could get to that level, then it makes sense why the Blazers didn't trade him, because the Blazers needed to change something up and they didn't. And they're expecting CJ to be that guy pre-injury. They're expecting Nurkic to be that guy pre-injury. They're expecting Phillips to have huge changes. So CJ at number 9 has to make huge improvements for this Blazers team to be better. So that's interesting to see.
Yeah, and in the playoffs, like we've seen some pretty crazy playoff games from him where he has gone up to that next level. It's just a matter of sustaining that over the regular season. He definitely has the talent. It's just he doesn't have that consistency.
Yeah, and he's just remembered right now for that Denver game where, when Damian Lillard was scoring like every single point.
Yeah.
Austin Rivers was praying for Damian Lillard to miss, and then CJ McCollum just steps out of bounds the second he gets the ball past him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he kind of ended the season on a extreme low light, but hopefully he bounces back, and he always bounces back. He's had a lot of solid years for like the last 5 years. Like he's been solid. Not that all-star level player, but right under.
Yeah, exactly. Another guy who's like, well, let's move on to Shea, because I didn't realize just how much Shea improved this past year until I took a deep dive into his numbers for this list. He averaged a 24, 5, and 6 on 51, 42, 81 slashes, increased his 3-point percentage by 71 points from 2 years ago, which is crazy. He's always been one of the most talented, mid-range scorers and playmakers at the shooting guard position. And he was never a bad 3-point shooter, but it wasn't his greatest strength. He shot 42% this year. it's kind of crazy how well rounded he is, and to be doing that on such a bad team with that efficiency is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it's kind of a cheat to have him at shooting guard right now because
Yeah,
he basically was the point guard the last year.
yeah,
The shooting guard is kind of, I guess, they kind of kept it from like the year before when Chris Paul was playing with him, and the year before that, like when he was on the Clippers and stuff like that, where he was more off ball. But
yeah,
nowadays, Shea's essentially the point guard. He's running the whole offense. It's going through
yeah,
him. Uh, it's going to be interesting to see how Josh Giddey, he's a 6'8" point guard. It's going
yeah.
to see how that factors in. And I just hope OKC don't shut him down because, man, when you're like a young guy, you just want to get as much reps as you can, just because like it's gonna increase Shea's popularity. It's gonna increase Shea's game. Like more
Yeah,
reps is gonna get him better at the game, right? He's gonna just have a better arsenal, and he could try out moves at NBA speed in NBA games that he can't, try out anytime
yeah,
else. So I think the injury was severe, though. People just say, "Oh, it was like a phantom injury that didn't happen," but I think if it was a phantom injury, he would have played for Team Canada. But he did cite that
true,
injury
true.
as another reason to not play. So I think the injury was legit, and hopefully he stays healthy. Hopefully there's no controversy about him getting shut down or whatever, and hopefully he
Yeah,
just plays the whole season next year.
yeah. Hopefully, I can't wait to see like what he does this year and what he will do eventually on a team that's actually like kind of decent. I mean, I guess he was OKC was pretty good with Chris Paul, but he was only a second year player then.
Yeah,
When he's like in his fifth year and he actually has like a good team around him, like he's gonna be pretty crazy to see. So I have Jalen Brown at 8. You must have him at least a couple of spots
higher.
higher.
Yeah,
I guess do you want to just do your 765 and then we'll just talk about Jalen Brown, or
yeah,
do you want to just
for
talk about him
sure.
now?
My 765 is Zach Levine at 7, Jalen Brown at 6, and Donovan Mitchell at 5.
Wow. Okay, so this is where we're gonna get some controversy. But okay, so I have Jalen Brown at 8. Like I said, I have Zach Levine at 7 as well. I put Klay Thompson at 6, and then I have Devin Booker
Oh,
at 5.
that's the guy. I don't have Klay Thompson
Oh,
on
oh,
my
I thought
list.
that's the okay, okay,
Yeah,
fine. That's the guy.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, so okay, let's just talk Jalen Brown. Jalen Brown, I don't know if he's a first option, but he averaged 25, 6.5, and 5 this year on
Yeah.
48 from the field, 40 from three, and 76 from the line. So efficient. Just knows he just plays alongside Jason Tatum so well. Has become one of the best two-way, shooting guard wings in the entire NBA. It's pretty crazy how much he improved this past season.
Yeah, Jalen Brown for me, I think the only person you have above him is like Zach Levine that I have like
Right.
Jalen Brown above.
Right.
And the reason I have Jalen Brown above Zach Levine is purely because of defense. Like at the end of the day, this guy's
Yeah,
averaging
exactly.
25,
Yeah.
all those incredible stats that Zach Levine's averaging. He's getting wins. So he's not doing it, like just for no reason. Like he's getting wins as well. And then he's also playing amazing defense alongside Marcus Smart and that Celtics team. He's just doing everything, man. Like it's crazy, like how good he is on defense, how good is he on offense,
Yeah.
and like how he does it as a part of a motion, like offense, rather than just like
Right.
give me the ball, let me ISO, go, go, go. So yeah, he's crazy, and this team fits him a lot better now. With Kemba gone, Al Horford in, Marcus Smart, taking the point guard role. We could see like a playmaking increase from him. Just a better overall season from him, and I expect him to be solidified higher than some of these guys next year.
Yeah. There's no weakness in his game. Like
No,
sometimes these two-way wings are a little weak playmaking, but he averaged 5
yeah,
assists this year, six and a
yeah,
half boards, 25 a game on really good efficiency, really good defense, plays so well as a team. Like he's not a ball like hog or anything like
stopper,
that. He ball
yeah,
stopper. He just plays so well on the flow, and to score that much and be that efficient is just it's unbelievable from a player his age.
yeah, and he's got to the point like where you have to debate him with Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Like he has brought it closer and closer to Tatum. Obviously, Tatum, since he closes out games,
Mm-hmm.
we see Jalen Brown take kind of that step back. But that's not even true too, because Jalen Brown has a couple of game winners and for the
Yeah.
takeovers too.
Yeah.
It's just the media. I guess Jason Tatum just, he's just that media don, the media darling, whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of gets him that attention. But man, these guys are both like 1A, 1A. Like it's
Yeah.
that close. Yeah,
Seriously. Yeah. No, it is because he's outside of he might be the best defender on this list. Like really,
I
I
think
don't
he
know.
is. Yeah.
He
Well, you
probably
have Klay
is.
Thompson, so
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, so
yeah.
okay, let's talk about Zach Levine. Wait, you had him at 6? I had him at
I had
7.
him at 7. I had him at 7.
Oh, okay, so we both have him at 7.
Yeah,
Yeah, Zach Levine was it's kind of insane how good his stats sound. 27 and a half, 5 and 5 pretty much on
yeah,
51, 42, 85. That's with a huge volume of 19 shots a game. Like, and that Bulls team was not that good in terms of talent.
horrible. Yeah,
This year, now they're pretty loaded with talent, especially
yeah,
offensively this year. I don't know if those numbers, it's going to be hard to improve on those raw numbers, but he might get more efficient. Like, and he
yeah.
might average more assists.
This is the time for Levine, like kind of to step into that Booker, Donovan Mitchell,
Yeah.
like Jalen Brown territory for me because he's gonna finally have wins.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that's separating him. The stats are as good, but
Yeah.
now these guys are just gonna fluctuate like from like 4 to 7 or whatever, just based on who gets the most wins. That's who's gonna kind of go up, right? Because all their
Yeah.
stats are like
Yeah.
all like 25 plus point scorers, all decent playmakers, all not the greatest defenders except for Jalen Brown, but like you know what I mean? Like they're all kind of have the same stats. It's just the Jazz have they got the 1 seed. The Celtics made the playoffs. The Suns went to the finals. You know what I mean? So we give those accolades, those team accolades to these
Yeah.
players, while Zach Levine sitting there, never making a playoff in his career. So
Yeah.
that's always been a knock on him. And I just can't wait till he makes the playoff, shows what he can do, and hopefully has a decent run. So he could definitely join
Yeah.
this conversation as these young shooting guards that are the future face of the league.
Yeah, you're so right that it depends so much on team because like right now, like if you just replace Donovan Mitchell with Zach Levine, like I don't know if they get better. I don't know if they get worse. They probably stay
Yeah,
probably about the same, right? Same with Devin
yeah,
Booker. But since those guys are on better teams and had so much more team success, they are higher. But that might change this year because that Bulls team
yeah,
is pretty loaded and it's gonna be really fun to watch.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm kind of surprised that you just totally left Klay Thompson off the list. I thought I was being disrespectful putting him all the way down at 6.
Yeah.
So give me your reasoning. You don't think he's going to be a top 10 shooting guard this coming season?
No, he's coming back January. It's not like he's returning
Yeah.
healthy day one.
Right.
So we're talking about a guy who's missed the last 2 seasons, who's missed last finals, a couple games of the finals, missed his last 2 seasons, and then now has to return midway through this season. And you expect him to be better than Terry Rozier, who was averaging 22 on great efficiency. Wait, that's a lot to ask. In my opinion, this year, he's just going to be Danny Green-esque. Not to be disrespectful, but
Yeah. No,
just
I get it. Yeah.
a great defender that's going to shoot a lot of threes, average like 18, do his thing, show flashes of prime Klay Thompson. But man, 2 years worth of injuries. The only person that I could see that missed that much time is John Wall, and John Wall had flashes of amazingness and just couldn't play the rest of the season. So
Yeah.
I think Klay Thompson's going to be similar.
Do I think that Klay Thompson is going to be better than Zach Levine and Jalen Brown and Shea this year? No, I don't.
Oh,
I don't think he's gonna. But I couldn't bring myself to bring him from number 2 to like outside the top 10. I just couldn't bring myself. I think like he's still gonna shoot 40% from 3. Like I
yeah,
think obviously once he comes back, he'll probably still average close to 20. He's just gonna have the volume
yeah, like
probably.
18.
He's
Yeah,
not going to be the same defender at least this year.
no,
He's going to be 32 years old as well when he comes
yeah,
back this season. So no, I don't think he's going to be. I think he could maybe be better than like CJ McCollum this year, maybe. But
yeah,
6 is probably high. I just out of respect, I had to put him there because I lowered Kevin Durant a little bit last year because I didn't really expect. I didn't know when he was going to be coming back from injury, and I was proven way wrong. So I was like, I'm not making that same mistake again.
yeah. The difference is Kevin Durant's injury, like was
He had one
straight
injury.
on.
Yeah.
It was one injury and it was straight on like the timeline. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the
Yeah.
day he was supposed to return, he returned. Like
Yeah.
there was no setbacks. Everything was good. And he probably could have returned earlier,
Yeah.
but he took that extra time off. The
Yeah.
bubble. Probably could have returned in the bubble.
He probably could have.
Took
Yeah.
he took that bubble off to make sure he was 100%. Whereas Clay is someone who's still rehabbing, who's gonna be trying to like rush that, not really rush, but trying to really competitively get back in. And
Yeah.
man, it just doesn't. That defense is not gonna be there
No.
anymore.
No.
Even at 32, like which defender is as good as his 28 version when he's 32, right?
Even if he were fully healthy, his defense will have regressed for sure.
Yeah,
And have it coming off an Achilles and an ACL tear is just it's going to be devastating. But I think like you said, I think he's going to be probably a little, hopefully better than Danny Green offensively. But he'll play that type of role, I think. But if there's one team that can get the most out of him, it's going to be the Warriors with Steph Curry and Steve Kerr. So I think he'll still average around 20.
Yeah. It's going to be like the Danny Green that the Raptors regular season.
Yeah.
Where he shot like incredible efficiency.
Yeah.
Except Klay Thompson's going to do it at a higher volume. So it's going to be better. And, he's still going to have all NBA, like not level defense, but like sometimes like instances of defense, fourth quarter, he's just not going to be able to sustain it for the whole game like he used to do.
That's fair. Okay, so I have Booker at 5. Did you say you had Mitchell at 5?
Yeah, I had Mitchell at 5.
Interesting. So so I have Mitchell higher than Booker. You have Booker higher than Mitchell. It's kind of a toss-up, but my reasoning is, I don't know, Donovan Mitchell, he's more consistent during the regular season, I think. He has some crazy playoff numbers. Like last year, this past playoffs, he averaged 32, 4, and 5.5 on 43.5% from 3. The previous year in the bubble, he was 36 points on 51.5% from 3. So he just levels up in the playoffs. He pretty much completely carries that Utah offense by himself, and their second best player becomes unplayable in the playoffs, and he still does this. That's kind of why I gave him the nod.
Yeah, essentially it was regular season versus playoffs for them.
Yeah.
Their first seed in the regular season versus the finals appearance, right? Yeah. I just gave it to the finals appearance of Devin Booker. Their stats are pretty similar.
Very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like we don't need to go through them. Like it's not that big of a difference. It's just I went with Booker's, that finals run is something that's going to be remembered. It's probably going to stick with Booker because I don't think they're making another finals run next year. Hey, I didn't think they were making one this year too. So if they prove me wrong, let it be. Donovan Mitchell, he's amazing. He's one of the best playoff performers since probably Michael Jordan.
Literally, yeah.
Because like those increases are crazy. But he did slip not being able to beat the Clippers. Like we all thought the second Kawhi got injured, we're like, oh, this is a wrap. Like Donovan Mitchell versus Devin Booker. We wanted to see that would have basically determined who was higher. There wouldn't have been no discrepancy. But he did slip up there. His team wasn't the greatest. Those last couple games, he wasn't the greatest too. I know I don't want to base this whole ranking off a couple games, but when it's so close, I had to give Booker the edge. Yeah.
See, for me, when I think of Donovan Mitchell, like, do you remember how like he hurt his ankle? He sprained his ankle in that Clippers series. Until then, he literally was playing like Michael Jordan. And then afterwards, like we don't really know how bad that ankle injury was, but if it were regular season, he probably would have missed like 2 weeks.
A couple games,
or like at least 4 or 5 games, you would think.
Yeah.
And he was still okay, but you're right. He wasn't the greatest, and they did end up losing that series in devastatingly painful fashion. But when he's fully healthy, he is quite literally one of the best playoff performers in the league, if not like straight up the best, other than Kevin Durant.
And the only other thing is like Devin Booker just has that little bit of size over him, so he gets that, those fourth quarter, game winners and stuff. Those, when he's laying on the floor and everything like that, he just has a couple of those moments over Donovan Mitchell. But by the end of their career, these two, they're always going to be flip-flopping. And so is Jalen Brown and Zach Levine, now that they're have teams that fit around them more. Like these 4 guys are just always going to be here for the rest of their career, like debating, and they're always going to move to that 1 to 4 spot because the guys we have above him are older, so
a little older.
When they move to that spot, those guys are always going to be there competing.
Okay, let's go into the top 4. I actually have Donovan Mitchell not at 4. I am at 3, so I'll give you mine. I put Paul George at 4. I got Mitchell at 3, and then I have Bradley Beal number 2 and James Harden number 1.
I have Booker at 4 because I thought they were like mismatchy. I have Beal at 3. I have Paul George at 2.
Wow.
And I have James Harden at 1.
Wow.
Yeah, Paul George was the guy that I was saying that was going to cause us to have disagreements. Okay. But okay, so we did Booker already. We kind of explained him.
Yeah.
We did Donovan Mitchell. So let's just do Paul George. Why I have
Paul George
2 and why you have him at 4.
If this were 3 years ago, OKC Paul George, I have him at 2, 100%. I do think he has taken a little bit of a step back defensively. He's not the the 4 positional defender that he once was. He's still a really good defender, but he's more of a wing / power forward defender, which is still fine. I do think that he's going to be really, really good this year. He might be the second best shooting guard in the league this year because he's going to be the Clippers' best player and the first option for a very long time, at least until Kawhi, if he ever plays. But I just think, the playoff performance we saw 2 years ago is always going to be held against him. He wasn't the greatest in the playoffs this year either. And even in the regular season, I don't know, like his numbers offensively are not any better than Donovan Mitchell or Paul George or Bradley Beal. In fact, Bradley Beal's are a lot better.
Yeah, the difference is, like you said, he is one of the best wing / power forward defenders in the league. And his regular season stats aren't the greatest, right? That OKC year, he was averaging 28.
Yeah.
The first year with the Clippers, he went all the way down to 21.5. And this year, 23.3. So, less points than those guys. But in playoffs, man, this guy stepped it up. Like, he has the thing is with his playoffs is like, he has just like 30, 30, 30.
Yeah.
13, 30, 30. Like that 1 13-point game is just all over the Twitter, all over social media, pandemic P's coming back, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But this guy averaged 26.9 points in the playoffs with 1 steal, half a block, 5.4 assists, 9.6 rebounds. He shot 84% from the free throw line, 50% effective field goal percentage, 51% from the 2-point percentage, 33.6% from 3-point percentage. Like, he was decently efficient. He averaged a lot of points, and he was the best rebounder on this list by far.
Yeah.
The best defender on this list come playoff time by far. So I just think the rebounding to defensive and then the playmaking at 5.4, other than the guy we have at 1, James Harden, he was arguably the best playmaker on this list by far. So now you have the best playmaker, defender, and a rebounder who's also averaging 27.
Yeah,
that's number 2.
He is averaging 27. In the playoffs, he did.
Yeah.
That was on 20 shots a game. He only shot 33.6% from 3, which is not efficient at all. Taking 8 shots a game. I don't think anyone on this list taking 20 shots a game in the playoffs would have been able to average 25. I think pretty much.
Would they have about the same rebounding?
They wouldn't have the same rebounding, and they probably wouldn't have the same defense. Now, he wasn't really able to do much against Luka, but who really can?
Who can? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't, like I said, I think if we did it after this season, or at least maybe halfway through this regular season, he probably would be my number 2.
Number 2. Yeah.
But I gotta give respect to someone like Bradley Beal, who's averaging 31, 4.5 on pretty good efficiency on a team that he was playing on. I have to give respect to that.
But when last time Paul George played on that exact same team, he was number 3 in MVP. I'm talking about that Russell Westbrook team, which Bradley Beal just played with. He was number 3 in MVP. He was number 3 in Defensive Playmaker of the Year voting. They made the playoffs as a 6 seed, unlike an 8 seed in the East. A 6 seed in the West is much harder to make. They did decent. You know what I mean? They were that team was much better, even though they had essentially the same amount of pieces, right? Basically, Russell Westbrook plus star, Beal versus PG, and a bunch of mediocre NBA players. And I don't know, PG showed that he could do that, and he showed he could take a step back with Kawhi, and still be this guy. And the thing with PG is you have to realize he still guards the best player.
Yeah.
Quarters 1 to 3, and the first 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, before Kawhi says, "All right, I'll guard him." And Kawhi kind of gets all the credit for it because 99% of NBA fans are on their phone the first 3 quarters and then start paying attention the fourth quarter, right? That's when most people start paying attention. So they just see Kawhi on him, and man, PG is really underrated because of that fact, because he's always guarding the best player, because Marcus Morris doesn't have the foot speed. Reggie Jackson, Patrick Beverley, they're just smaller than most of the best players, so they can't guard him. Serge Ibaka was just injured most of the time, so he couldn't guard him. And just PG just stepped up, as that power forward, wing defender, and man, he just did so much for this Clippers team.
Yeah. See, when it's close like this, what I like to do is just think like if I swap these two players, what would happen, right? So for me, if I put Bradley Beal on a good team like the Clippers, I think he would pretty much average the same, but with better efficiency. And
Yeah,
I think Bradley Beal is the better offensive player, maybe not by far, but I think he is. He's just so explosive, right? And even with Donovan Mitchell, I think if you swapped him and Paul George, I don't think Utah
yeah,
gets better with Paul George over Donovan Mitchell. Maybe they get better defensively, probably like definitely,
bigger. Yeah,
but I think Donovan Mitchell can just carry that load, especially in the playoffs offensively, over someone like Paul George. But like I said, it's really close. It's pretty much neck and neck from 2 to like 5 for me.
yeah,
So it's really there's no
yeah.
wrong answer.
And next year we could see like 2 to 8 being swapped, right? Like we
Yeah.
could see Shea potentially, averaging
Yeah.
31.
Yeah.
If Shea averages 31 and OKC make the 8 seed,
Yeah.
he's probably number 2, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably.
So like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how close the shooting guard is. All these guys are number one options who, lead their team. The other guy we barely talked about before we go to James Harden
Yeah.
is Bradley Beal. We
Yeah.
mentioned his stats. Did he win points this year, or was it Steph Curry?
I think it was Steph, but I'll double check.
Yeah, so him and Steph are basically in this battle for points. Just like a lot of other Russell Westbrook teammates, he had one of his best years. He averaged 30 2 years in a row, 30.5
Yeah.
last year, 31.3 this year.
Yeah.
Made the 8 seed, solid at playmaking. His last
Yeah.
4 years, 4.5 assists, 5.5 assists, 6.1 assists, 4.4 assists. Solid playmaker, solid rebounder at 4.45, 4.2, 4.7. So solid rebounder, great efficiency, 88% from the free throw line, 53% effective field goal percentage, just 53.5 2-point percentage, and 34.9 3-point percentage. So basically great efficiency, high
Yeah.
volume scorer, kind of the perfect shooting guard
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah, that's basically it. So Steph averaged 32 and barely won the
Yeah.
he won the title by pretty much 1 point. But
Yeah.
like Bradley Beal, like I know he took 23 shots a game, but it's not like he's shooting under 40%. He's
Yeah.
shooting close to 50 from the field, 35 from 3, and close to 90 from the line. So to be doing that on like you said, a team that's like pretty much him and a bunch of like average to below average NBA players is pretty impressive. His team is better
Yeah.
this year, I think, with Spencer Dinwiddie and a
More
couple of guys
depth.
that, more depth for sure. I think we'll see that efficiently go up. I don't know if he's going to average 31 again, but he is just one of the most explosive scorers in the entire NBA.
Yeah, and the guy above him, he's not even going to be classified as a shooting guard next year.
No.
I think we're going to swap him and his teammate next year. Kyrie's probably going to be here. James Harden's probably going to be on the point guard list.
Yeah.
This guy is what, the third best shooting guard all time. Like,
Yeah.
it's actually crazy. Like, he's competing with Dwayne Wade. Once he gets those rings, if Brooklyn could win a couple, he's going to be right there with Dwayne Wade competing for the third best shooting guard. And the only thing that separates him from 1 and 2 is the defensive side. He's no defender, all NBA level defender that Jordan and Kobe was, but on the offensive end, this guy is as good as those guys, who is, in my opinion, the GOAT and another top 5 player of all time. So yeah, this guy's just insane offensively. When you just watch him play, like, he can make all the shots. Like, this guy went from averaging, his last 5 years, he 30, 36, 34. And then this year he took a step back for KD and is averaging 24.6.
Yeah.
That's a step back.
Yeah. Literally. Like, he might be the most talented player like in the entire NBA. The fact that he because Houston, like, people, he got a lot of hate for ball dominating, just scoring in Houston, but that's what the team needed. When he came to Brooklyn, there were some doubts about whether or not he'd be able to do that, but he was kind of the one that made that team work so perfectly. Like, I wasn't sure what that team was going to look like when he got there, and he did not regress. He purposely took a step back to score 24 and averaged 11 assists when he got there. He's the one that made that team click. He is actually not as bad of a defender as some people say. Like, if you look, he's always leading the league in like deflections and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With like loose balls, which is Maybe he's not a good
Crazy.
one-on-one defender, but he's a good team defender at least, effective team defender. But yeah, he can, if you need him to, he will 100% take over a game and score 50. But he's also one of the best playmakers in the NBA. He's so talented, doesn't deserve the hate that he gets. Yeah, his exit of Houston from Houston was a little messy, but it wasn't entirely his fault. Yeah. He's unbelievable. There's a huge gap between him and the rest of the shooting guards, and even it's going to be interesting to see if he is a point guard next year, like a full-on point guard, where he ranks beside like the best, Steph. If we count LeBron at some point again as a point guard, I don't know, but he's that good. It's insane.
Yeah, like he's definitely gonna be a point guard next year, in my opinion, because he was like a PG/shooting guard.
Yeah.
This year, and that's because the shooting guard was from like the Houston time.
Yeah.
But in Brooklyn, I would say he was the point guard, and Kyrie kind of transitioned to the shooting guard.
Yeah.
But man, even Kyrie, like he's gonna be competing for that number one spot at the shooting guard, right?
Literally, yeah.
Like, this Brooklyn team's gonna be, it's our NBA championship favorites. If they're healthy, they're winning it, and they can be fun to watch. If you can't get to watch a game, like we said for the Lakers and LeBron, if you can't watch a game with this Brooklyn Nets, try to do it because this is historic.
And something he doesn't get credit for is rebounding. He went to Brooklyn, who was weak at center, relatively weak at center. No big deal. Average 8.5 boards a game.
Yeah,
like
career high.
He's career high. At least even if he's not a great one-on-one defender, rebounding is part of defense as well. And he brings absolutely everything to the table. And he can be efficient if he wants. Like he shot his career high from the field. He shot 47% from the field in Brooklyn, which is pretty much by far a career high for him, which is it's insane. Not enough to say.
Yeah, and when like people don't underestimate how big of like the offense improves when James Harden and Kevin Durant are rebounding, because instead of like when like a Nick Claxton or like James Johnson, those guys who are going to get some center minutes, or even like a LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, the second those guys are they're going to look to pass, right? But when James Harden and KD get it, they could just like initiate the offense 94 feet. It could be free flowing, and it's going to be one of the best offenses of all time. It's just going to be like that. It's going to rival that thing offense, the Golden State offense.
Yeah.
But in a very different esque.
Very different.
Golden State was like fast motion, bunch of passes, whereas this is going to be like my turn, your turn. Yeah. But it's going to work because the players are so good.
A good version of my turn, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing with James Harden, like he's 31, so he's obviously getting a little up there in age, but his game is not dependent on speed and explosiveness and athleticism, right? Like he is perfectly comfortable just like we know dribbling it out and breaking defenders down like with little changes of pace. So I don't really, maybe he won't be averaging 30 when he's 35, but I think he's still going to be like an all NBA, first team to second team all NBA caliber player when he's 35, 36.
Yeah, he's going to be like an above 20 point scorer for like another like 7 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So he probably will. I don't know. I don't want to say he's definitely going to go down as the third best shooting guard of all time, but if he gets 2 championships and does that into his late years, then I would probably bet on it.
Yeah. When we talk about these historic shooting guards rather than the current shooting guards, that just shows how much James Harden has elevated himself past everyone.
We're not comparing him to Bradley Beal or Zach Levine or Donovan Mitchell. We're comparing him to Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Dwayne Wade. Yeah.
Crazy.
Pretty crazy. So that was a pretty interesting list. I'm kind of shocked he didn't have Klay Thompson on, but you are right. I don't think he's going to outperform most of these guys this year, but just out of respect, I couldn't bring myself to do it. But we're going to be back with point guards next week, which is also going to be very interesting. So LeBron, we already did LeBron with small forwards, so he's not a point guard this year, but it's still going to be a really interesting list. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. Like I said, we'll be back next week with point guards. Until then, you can check us out on all our socials, Instagram at Stretch the Floor Podcast. Check out our YouTube channel, STF Clips, for all the best clips from the podcast. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast feed wherever you get them, Apple, Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating and review because it all really helps. And other than that, thank you again for listening, and we'll see you back next week.